Hi there, Trumpets. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can oil your valves and some things to watch out for when you're doing that. So I'm going to stand up and zoom in on the trumpet and show you how to do this. First of all, the thing to understand about the valves is that each valve, even though it looks like they're all the same, there are three different valves. And we number the valves from where the mouthpiece goes in, at the mouthpiece receiver, to the bell. So number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 2 is in the middle, that's pretty easy. Number 1 is closest to the mouthpiece, number 3 is closest to the bell. Also on our valve, when we're talking about our valves, there's a couple pieces that we need to understand. This part right here at the top where your finger rests, this is called the finger button. This part down here, that I'm unscrewing right here, this is called the valve cap. This is the finger button, this is the valve cap. When we take the valves out, we're going to use the valve cap, not the finger button. If you unscrew the finger button, that can roll away and get lost. And we don't want that to happen. So this is what it looks like if you take off the finger button. Okay, so we don't want to lose that piece. And you never take apart the finger button. That doesn't need to happen. So the valve caps, right up here at the top, these are your top valve caps. And at the bottom, you have caps on the bottom part here. So we're going to access the valves from the top. So I'm going to unscrew this and pull out my valve. Okay, now one thing to understand about the valve is that inside there's a notch, and it's probably hard to see with the light, but inside the valve there's a little notch, and your valve has a little plastic guide that's going to line up inside that notch. Also, the valve has a front and a back. So if you look carefully, right here on the valve you can see a number 1. That's because this is the first valve. That number 1 is going to be facing towards the mouthpiece when I put it back in. If I don't put it facing towards the mouthpiece, when I try to blow into my trumpet, no air is going to go through. So that's going to be really important for that to come out. Now I'm going to show you how we oil just the first valve. The second and third valve work the same way. But I'm going to just do the first valve in this video. So I'm using the valve cap and I'm unscrewing it. So I'm turning it in a counterclockwise direction, opposite the way of the clock. Okay, so I'm unscrewing this and I'm going to pull the valve straight out. And I'm going to need my cleaning cloth. I'm going to take my cleaning cloth and wipe the valve clean, because the valve gets dirty. Now, this part here, this is the metal part of the valve that we're concerned about cleaning and oiling. This part up here, this doesn't actually touch anything. So this, you don't have to really worry about that. But down here, we want this to be clean. And you can see this valve is pretty clean. There's not too much gunk or grime or stuff on there. So I wipe it all clean. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my valve oil. And I want to put valve oil along the part of the valve that's going to be contacting the inside of my valve casing. Now I don't need to put tons and tons. I'm going to put like maybe a drop or two, but I'm going to spread it all along this portion here. Okay? And you want to try not to get this on the floor or on your clothes. I'm working over a table right here that I can wipe down when I'm done. But again, I'm just taking the valve oil and putting a little bit right along here. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my valve has the number 1 facing towards the front where the mouthpiece goes in. And I'm going to put that valve straight in where the number 1 goes. Okay? Now when I do that, it should just click right into place. And if I grab the valve button at the top, if it's not locked in place, I can turn the valve button in a clockwise direction to the right until it clicks. Take a listen. Did you hear that click? Let me do it again. There, it clicked in. Once it's clicked in place, I know that the valve is lined up right, and I can close the valve cap. And you want to make sure that you get your valve cap lined up with the screws. You shouldn't have to force it. So if it's like that one, I was having a little trouble getting it tightened up. If it's hard to tighten, that means your screws are not lined up, and you just have to check that valve cap there. Okay? The valves should move real nice and smooth, and when you blow through, the air should flow through. So you want to check that each time as you take your valves out, that the air is still going through. So you do that on your second valve and your third valve also. You need to be oiling your valves a couple times a week. So I usually tell my students, if you didn't do it yesterday, do it today. Try to do it about every other day. Okay? When you run out of valve oil, you'll need to get some more valve oil so that you can keep your valves oiled. Running out of valve oil is not an excuse for not oiling your valves. If you don't oil your valves, they will eventually start moving slower and slower, and then they'll get stuck down. And when they get really stuck down, you have to take it to the repair shop and have the repair shop fix it. So that's really important for you to be taking care of your valves and do that. And again, I showed you how you line up the valves to make sure that they're working correctly. If they're not lined up, your trumpet's not going to work. You're going to try to blow and it's going to feel like no air's going through.